the Misfit Boy podcast. For those of you scoring at home, or even if you're alone, my name is Cheyenne Gomez, and I am the moderator, moral compass, and sometimes referee of the show. I am joined today by
Armando, the number one stunner.
Michael.
Jeff, number 17 in your program, number 1 in your hearts.
Gentlemen, start your beverages.
I started early, and it's a bottle, so.
Why do you have to be so difficult? It's got to be a bottle.
Because it's my house.
Oh, now it's Jeff's house, right? Uh-oh.
It's new. I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, okay. Your house. Yeah, whatever. All right.
A few more weeks.
All right.
I see Cheyenne's really moderating this one already. His house. Jesus.
It's the face of a man who's made a horrible mistake.
Indeed, they did.
I can see that.
So, anybody want to talk about the game tonight?
Oh, are you referring to our game tonight?
I'm talking about our game tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, our game. Oh, okay.
Are there any grievances anybody needs
To answer your question, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, moving on.
Well, no, I have something to say. I think
This is really going to be good.
it was not a terrible game. It was the first game of the season.
No, it wasn't too bad. First game back.
A bit of a slow start. A little bit of a lack of back checking for the offense, and
We're not going to name anybody.
we're probably not going to get there by the end of the season either. But we can try and work on it.
Not with that attitude.
No,
I mean, Mike,
it hasn't changed in 4
Mike,
years.
you came back. You've been off for what, about a month and a half?
About a month and a half.
And how are you feeling? You in shape?
Absolutely not. I was ready to puke.
I tell you were not in shape. Okay,
Rounded of shape.
except for the damn goal that you scored. Other than that, tell you
I had
what.
2 assists. I passed the puck twice, and I got 2 assists.
You had a great assist to was it Cody?
Yeah, I think Cody
That
scored.
was a great pass.
Cody scored.
Nice sauce right into the.
Right onto the tape. It was perfect.
Yeah, nice goal. I think Petey scored too, right?
Yep.
Still Petey
Yeah,
scored.
Petey cleaned up my rebound.
Yeah, had a nice crash in that. Let's see, we had 5 goals. So who else scored out there?
Gilby backhand
Gilby
from
had
behind
one.
that.
Gilby had a nice little backhand right into the net. All right. So that's
Can't think
3.
of the fifth.
Alex.
That's
Oh,
right.
Alex had
at
a
the end of the
beautiful
period.
coast-to-coast goal. Yeah, Alex had a beautiful coast-to-coast goal on D. I mean, that was some Bobby Orr stuff going on there. I enjoyed that one, yeah. And
Rob Field's great in goal. Just
Rob plays good.
didn't really defend him.
Only had 1 penalty, and guess who took that penalty?
This bitch right here.
Yeah. Mike, as usual. Always sitting in the damn box, never fails.
It's not a game without a Becker penalty, one way or the other.
That's right.
Whether it's fair or not.
Listen, I gotta get those fantasy stats. You gotta go across the board.
You know what cracks me up about his penalty, too? Is that I literally skated by him while we were changing lines, and I'm like, hey, they're looking for the slash. Try not to slash. I'm on it, right? And not even a minute later, he gets called on the slashing
So
call.
you jinxed
Can
it, is what you're
believe
trying to
it?
tell me. Just like he does every other time. All right, boys, no penalties, and then he goes out there.
I'm telling that is the Misfit
Exactly.
Boys curse.
It's definitely-
Is that you say, don't get a penalty. Whoever says don't get a penalty immediately takes an egregious penalty.
Never fails.
Exactly. As soon as you say everybody stay out of the box, less than a minute later, you are in the box.
I mean, thanks for pointing that out, Cheyenne.
Trying to keep things fair here.
Jerk off. I've been in the box for a while. Thanks, Cheyenne. It's been a little bit since I've sat my happy butt on that pine. That's been my issue. I've sat in there twice.
It's only because we were in between the season.
Well,
yeah.
Now that you've said that,
Well,
Yeah, you cursed yourself.
I'm working on it.
You're done.
I'm going for about maybe 2 to 3 more penalties this season.
Jeff, I hope when you're walking to your car in the morning, you brush out your 2 front teeth when you trip.
Wow. All right.
On the other breaking news.
Now I got to start wearing a cage off the ice.
Hey, that's the way it is.
or maybe not have a 45-degree angle driveway. For
Listen,
goodness sakes, God, it was
I'm
like a mountain trying to get up to the
I'll get right on that.
Yeah, first off, who told you to buy a house that has like a driveway that's ridiculous?
The kind of house where I don't have to pay flood insurance.
Listen,
Because you're already 30 feet
I'm
above
tired
the
when I
air.
get off a game. The last thing I want to do is take a hike from your driveway to your damn garage. This is ridiculous.
God forbid you get more physical exercise.
Listen, the only exercise I like to do is from the beard to the mouth, and that's it.
These are can curls.
I tell you what.
He did get a townhouse with stairs for that exact reason.
That's right. Up and
That's
down,
true.
baby.
No stairs in this
He
house.
goes upstairs to go to work, and he never comes down for lunch. So he's cutting out calories like crazy,
right.
like that way.
Like crazy. And you know what the best part of working at home is? I just go up in some shorts and a t-shirt. It doesn't even matter what I look like, you know? It doesn't matter.
It
I just
is
go up
great.
there.
It is great.
It's fantastic.
I'm clad in like dry fit during the week. That's all I wear because I work from home.
Who cares, right? Nobody's seeing me.
Nothing wrong with that. I think that a lot of people, especially office folks, have been outsourced to be able to work at home so that they can be more productive by not having to drive to work and then stop at Starbucks and all this, that, and whatever. But honestly, everybody's surfing on the internet. Whether you're in the office trying to hide it from the boss or you're at home not trying to hide it from the boss, you're probably getting the same amount of productivity, but the worker is happy, and that really counts for something.
We might get a little more productivity because think about it. You cut the drive out from work, right? You don't have to do that. You're not running somewhere to get lunch, so you're saving money. So you're happy there, right? You're not spending the $20 or $30 a week that you're spending on lunch. And the gas money, I mean, there's tons of crap that you save. I mean, I love it, right? But, you know, I agree with you. You're going to surf the internet. That's why you have that Chrome incognito. I'm going to take that up, search some stuff, you know, and just check yourself. But yeah, you know, I love it. I mean, and from home, I do my fantasy picks, right? I check my leagues, make sure my lineup's set, you know. I got it all good. I love it.
Well, you know, with things being the way they are now, nobody needs to surf on their office computer on Facebook. They're doing it on their smartphone while they're in between sales calls or whatever. And you know, again, as long as you're being a productive employee and everybody's happy, then all right, we're all good to go. If we got nothing else to talk about rec-wise, you guys want to talk about the beginning of the NHL season?
Oh,
I think some of us want to talk about it.
I think some of us will. I think Mike will stay pretty quiet because his Rangers aren't off to a good start. But yeah, heck yeah, I want to talk about it. You know, being a Blackhawks fan, 2-0, I mean, let's do it.
Well, then you go ahead and start off then.
All right. That's what I love to hear. My Chicago Blackhawks, as usual, coming out of the gates, 2-0. I mean, come on. You saw the Pittsburgh game, right? 10-1. I mean, 10 to 1.
Big number. That's a real big number.
Scored your goals for the week, and now you're going to go on a little
here we go.
slump.
I heard that from him on the first game. Did you see the second game? 5-1?
No, I don't.
5-1 I mean, you should take notes.
Absolutely
Your teammate,
not.
what did they lose 8-5?
Yeah, that's okay.
8-5.
We're a slow start.
I mean,
In his defense, the Blackhawks games are a lot more entertaining than watching the Rangers right now.
Give it a couple more games, and the tables are going to turn. Guaranteed.
what do you think is going to change in a couple more games?
You're going to see the scores change. I'm telling you, Rangers.
I do.
Wider deficits
usually-
or more in the positive for the blue shirts?
They're going to get structured defensively, and they're going to work everything out. They got about 6 new players. It's going to take time to adapt to the new system, and they're going to be all right. Give them about 10, 15 games.
Well, when you say the scores are going to change, I don't disagree with you there because there are a ton of goals being scored. The numbers seem like they're way up from where they were last year, and I'm curious to see. Like I know that the penalties seem like they're calling a lot more penalties. I know they're really cutting down on slashing a lot of the stick work, and they're also doing. I don't know if I know there's been a couple. I know it happened to the Rangers. I think last night the offsides review penalty, where you get penalized now if you lose an offsides review challenge after a goal. So I know that's going to stay there, but I'm curious if the refs really stay with the slashing penalty because it seems like there's quite a few of those penalties being called in the first couple games of the season.
You know about slashing penalties, don't you?
Just a little bit.
From a personal point of view, I think you're quite well acquainted with slashing, checking from behind, tripping, fighting, unsportsmanlike. Is that all of them? Because I think
20% of the list.
I'm sure we can invent a couple more.
I'm sure we can figure out some more penalties here for this guy. Yeah, I'm sure.
I agree with Jeff. I think that during one of the Lightning games, there was a penalty. Actually, there was the second game that a lot of the penalties the Lightning felt was against them. I caught part of the game. I didn't catch the whole game, but every team feels that way. But we're hearing it from a lot of different sports fans from different areas. I wonder if the referees are having their own breaking in period and trying to figure out themselves what are they actually going to call on a consistent basis for the rest of the season. How hard are they calling this because their bosses are saying either call this or we're going to replace
and I feel like there is a concerted effort by the NHL to get scoring up, and I think we saw this after the 04-05 lockout, where they said, we're going to start calling all these obstruction penalties in the neutral zone, and scoring went way up. There were a ton of goals being scored then, and then the refs kind of went, slowly they went back to the base level they had there, the baseline, and they, scoring went back down because they weren't calling as many penalties because they were starting to call the games more like they usually did. So I'm curious to see if that happens here, where we call a ton of slashing penalties here early in the season. There's a ton of penalties and there's a ton of scoring, and then it all just sort of goes back to how we used to play the game. I know definitely I've seen a couple slashing penalties that last season would have just been, it was just how the game was played. And then this season, it's a penalty.
Yeah, well, anything near the gloves is going to be called. I don't think that's going to change throughout the whole season, but those new face-off penalties, they need to tone down on that because
not a fan.
That's a little ridiculous. They're skating into the circle and the front of their skate goes over like half an inch and they're pulling them out of the circle.
At the same time, I think something needed to be done because you had where guys were, if they were behind the ref, they were coming in and they were basically right behind the ref. They were like, so something needed to be done, but this maybe a little too drastic in the opposite direction.
We got to open up the game, right? At the end of the day, like you said, there's got to be more goal scoring. When you look at the records that Gretzky holds, which is pretty much every freaking record in the book except for the goalie records, you're never going to break his records if these guys are not scoring more goals, making more points. The game's got to be different. When you look at the game from when he played from where we play now and penalties and just different things, it's an entirely different game. Plus, you got, look at these defensive players. They are crazy good now, right? When you look at there was always your core, you had like Bobby Orr, Chris Chelios. There was always some really good defensive players, but not the way the game is played now. These defensive guys are stronger, they're faster, they can puck handle, they can shoot. They're utilized more in the game. So, the goal scoring's got to go up. Everything's got to change in the field if we're going to break some records here.
But is that really the way that it should go? If you guys think back from in the 90s when they had the neutral zone trap, it was started, I believe, by the Devils.
Yeah.
Once they instituted that system, everybody was trying to break it. And the only good way to break that system was to do a dump and chase. And not every team was built to do a dump and chase. So what did they do? They started building teams to try to be able to break the neutral zone trap. And then what happened? Other teams started running neutral zone trap. Other teams started getting the dump and chase, and things evened out. And that was without doing a significant rule change.
Well, I kind of disagree with that. I think the significant rule change was cutting down on the clutching and grabbing in the neutral zone. After the 04-05 lockout, when they came back, I think they really made an effort to cut down on holding, like I said, the clutching and grabbing, and that kind of lessened the effectiveness of the neutral zone trap. And now you really don't see that nowadays. You don't see that clutching and grabbing in the neutral zone. You're more free to do what you want. And that kind of eliminated the effectiveness of the neutral zone trap.
But I feel that, especially teams these days, compared to 20 years ago, even a lot more athletic, a lot faster. Defensemen are like 6 foot. Okay,
it's
other than Chara, they're like 6'5". They are some tall guys. Victor Hedman comes to mind. Chara, they're very large defensemen. Dan Girardi, even as old as he is dropping in front of pucks. They're being more aggressive about being the exterior goaltenders. They're stepping out in front of the goalie and trying to block the shots, especially during playoff hockey. I get that. But seeing these guys dropping down, and some of them have half shields over their face, some of them don't, and they're dropping down in front of pucks to try to protect the goaltender. It's like, how are you supposed to score if everybody is flopping around like sea bass on the ship deck in front of the goalie to prevent the puck from getting anywhere near him?
Well, I think that's why they're trying to call more penalties to try and get up scoring. Because what's the other alternative? Do you make the goal bigger? Do you make the goaltender's pads smaller? Do you widen the rink? I think this is probably a better option than doing anything like that.
I think, unfortunately, even if you make their pads smaller, the goaltenders now are changed, right? Think about it. Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, Dominic Hasek, they changed goaltending forever with the butterfly and just everything that they do. They're so athletic now. Goalies are more athletic now than they were back when, you had Tony Esposito and those guys there. They played a good game, but you can't compare. Goaltending is definitely far better than what it used to be. So again, you have issues there with the goal scoring and the forwards going into it. So I think at that point, what do you do? How do you change the game?
Well, I mean, what rule for each of you guys, what rule would you change in the NHL to make it better, in your opinion? Because I thought of this. There was a good ESPN piece, even though ESPN doesn't cover hockey at all. There was a good ESPN piece last month where they went to 29 NHL players, I think, and they asked each of them, what rule would you change? And there was a lot of them wanted to go to the Olympics, and that's maybe another conversation we can have about the NHL not allowing the players to go to the Olympics. And Tanner Pearson had a really interesting comment about changing the way escrow is done. So
really,
Tanner Pearson's a nerd.
Escrow is going to change.
That was his big thing. I thought that was pretty fun.
I'm going to go with no.
I know a lot of them said eliminating or bringing back the two-line pass, which
I think that would slow down the game.
Yeah, I'm glad they took that away because I think it slowed down the game tremendously, and I think now you get more breaks, right?
Yeah.
So the goals are going to go up. How many more one-on-ones do you get at that point if you don't have that two-line pass? I mean, if you look at the Hawks and some of the other teams that are very effective with it, and I'm pointing out the Hawks because that's my team. So
what's your point of reference?
Yeah, that's my point of reference. So,
it's the only team you watch.
But I wouldn't even say anything.
It's like
okay, what's your record again? So I wouldn't say nothing over
it's
there.
It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And how many points can Armando bring a conversation
exactly.
back to
we're going to bring it back to the Blackhawks. I mean, when you look at like Duncan Keith and Seabrook and those guys there, they effectively can get that puck all the way down the middle. And then when you got a Patrick Kane, you got a Schmaltz, you got a Taze, now Brandon Saad, who's back on the team, which, by the way, I want to point that out. Brandon Saad came back and had a hat trick in his first game. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he had a hat trick in preseason too. So one hell of a way to come back to Chicago and show that he wants to be back home.
Preseason doesn't count.
As preseason counts for me. I was really upset at the Panarin trade. I definitely shed some tears there. Panarin.
By the way, Panarin looking real good in Columbus, proving that he was not just a guy benefiting from playing on a line with Kane.
Yeah, the chemistry that they had, right? I mean, undoubtedly they had chemistry was just unreal. Like Mike said, beautiful chemistry together. Definitely sad to see him go, but I understood the trade, right? We got to bring some different perspective back to the Blackhawks. I mean, to be out first round last year, swept. That's embarrassing. I was embarrassed for them, and I know that they had to be embarrassed. So I think, bringing back Saad and Sharp and just changing some of the depth of the Blackhawks is really going to make a difference this year in what's going on. But Panarin looking fantastic in Columbus. I mean, what? Did you see some of his passes in the Columbus game the other night?
He looks very, very good.
Man. That kid's going to be a force to reckon with. Definitely going to be probably one of the top 10 NHL players as his career goes on here. So
he's certainly going to help.
It's true. Playing great for a 59-year-old.
Who only looks like he's 49 years old, but he's bringing good credibility and skill to a team that is actively and struggling to have some sort of relevance in today's NHL. And I think Columbus has done a really good job of turning around out of all the teams that have floundered. I was really surprised that Columbus has turned around as quickly as they have. I think a lot in part to Tortorella's leadership, but they've also drafted well. They've also they've been developing their players and bringing in character or a player like Panarin is certainly going to strengthen their ranks.
Yeah. I mean, they got a good offensive line, right? They've got a young team. Look good.
Yeah, great goalie. Yeah,
I mean, in the net, they're going to be a good team. I think they're going to be a force to reckon with. And Panarin, I think, brings a good depth for them. And we're going to see some more points from these guys. But let's talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. What the heck is going on with our defending Stanley Cup champions? I'm not a Penguin fan. But,
you're saying our. That's possessive.
Yeah, I apologize. So the NHL's defending champions.
We're here with the world's only Blackhawks and Penguins fan.
Yeah, definitely not.
He's both of his teams.
He's got his West team, and now he's got his East.
Yeah, he's
team.
also
Apparently, he's definitely showing loyalty.
Also a big Warriors fan.
To the mighty black and gold there.
Criminy. I'm never going to hear the end of this one.
No,
let's talk about these guys.
No, but I want to find out when exactly is it that you were a Penguins fan, or was it in the last 10 minutes, or it was in the last before preseason? Was it before preseason was over?
We've been recording for
what I meant to say was the NHL's defending Stanley Cup champion. I am by no means a Pens fan a Crosby fan. I can't stand him. I think he's a whiny crybaby player.
But you bring up a good point, which is that, Pittsburgh has always relied essentially on 4 guys. They've relied on Crosby, on Malkin, on Kessel, and I guess Murray now, or maybe Letang. But, they've always sprinkled some pixie dust and managed to get these guys like, Jake Gensel or whoever, who are just plucked from obscurity, but they play on a line with Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin, and they turn into superstars.
Well, look at Kessler, right? I mean, eating hot dogs all day. I mean, you all seen the size of him. And the only reason why he's so good is because that man Sidney, right? Let's point that one out right away.
He looks like everybody's fat uncle.
Oh my God, it's crazy. I mean, well, think about it. Do you think it was a good move for them to keep Murray, or? I mean, because
I don't think they could have gotten rid of him. I mean, he won him, a Stanley Cup 2 years ago, and then contributed, heavily this past year.
Yeah, he's much younger than Fleury. I can't believe Fleury even just waived his no trade just to go to Vegas.
He wanted to play.
That in itself.
Yeah, but he's doing good over there.
He is doing great.
I think Fleury saw the writing on the wall. He knows he's only got a few more years left. And honestly, he's backstopping some of the best players in the league. He knows that his days are numbered, especially with Murray bucking up against him. Similar to the Bishop and Vasilevsky situation. A lot of people were like, oh, you guys getting rid of Bishop. I was like, look, in 2 playoff runs, the guy got injured twice and was out for a significant amount of time, favoring his legs.
I think Bishop's a little bitch.
Cat. A tall cat. You cannot. Yeah, dude, I've had groin injuries before goaltending. I know what it looks like when a goaltender falls down.
I like how he had to add in.
I like how you have to add that in case anybody's listening.
He has injured
you guys want to know
side
that.
of his groin at least 3 independent times. The writing was on the wall for Bishop. As good of a goaltender as he was, with him being injury prone and with groin injuries, they never go away. If anybody's ever had one of those, they never go 100% away. Well, they
Cheyenne,
always come back.
The Misfit boys keep you, right? I mean, you have groin injuries. I mean, we keep you in that, don't we?
When I show up.
That's right. In fact, it's funny you said that because Rob mentioned something in the locker room tonight when he was putting his goalie pads on. He goes, man, I think I played in the net more than Cheyenne has. I said, yeah, probably. We brought you in for D and you've been playing goalie, but that's okay. We'll let Cheyenne slide on that one.
But the same thing there. I think Fleury knows that he's got a certain shelf life. He wants to try to maximize his playing time and a contract, and realize that he probably had a really good chance of getting picked up by Vegas, and said, you know what? I see the writing on the wall here in Pittsburgh. Murray is obviously going to be the golden child. Get me out of here, and I'll be a golden knight.
Which, by the way, they're 2-0, and the Rangers are 1-2. So, what makes you think that's going to stick?
Vegas or
both of them.
Well, you think Pittsburgh regretting the decision at the end of the day? I mean, look at Murray, 2 games, giving up. What, he gave up 11 goals in 2 games?
That was a decision made about the future. I don't think that was a decision made about
6-7 years younger. I mean, it's his
right, but
no question.
But who here can really tell us, at this table, what personnel changes they made at Pittsburgh? We have no idea really what defensive personnel has changed around. If his system changed a little bit, what the deal is? Could it be that Murray's getting a little like, oh well, I'm now that I'm king of the hill, I have
and that's the thing is like
untouchable.
Last season. I mean, they've reloaded or brought back their same team from last season. I think the one difference would be bringing in Ryan Reeves, which I think is a questionable decision simply because he's known as an enforcer, which is kind of a position that's died out in the NHL. But they've always
dead. It definitely still.
And I think he fought last night, sticking up for a teammate. So
he's I don't know. I didn't understand that position bringing Reeves in. I didn't think that they needed that.
Yeah, and I didn't get that either. I mean, where they're weak, I think, is on defense because they've really been doing it with spit and duct tape on defense the past couple of seasons, which you can't really argue with because they've won the Stanley Cup last year.
No, right. I mean, they got back-to-back Stanley Cups, so who are we to judge? But at the end of the day, I mean, Reeves, come on. Let's look at the game. Grady's an enforcer, but what does he really do? I didn't think he performed really well against St. Louis their opening night, and then they come into Chicago, right, the night after. And let's talk about that. Who did the Pittsburgh Penguins upset in that front office that they got 2 back-to-back games like that, being the defending Stanley Cup champions? Somebody didn't like them there to give them those 2 back-to-back
on the
games,
road too. They were in Chicago.
Yeah, and then Pittsburgh and then Chicago where they raised the banner and everything. But I mean, think about that. Reeves, what's he done? Other than he's trying to start fights, which he did in the Chicago game. He was chipping with Hayden and a couple of the other guys there. I mean, what's he doing? What is he bringing to the team? In my eyes, nothing.
I think it was just a desperation move. They needed a third line center, fourth line center, whatever it may be, and they really ran out of options.
Maybe this is a response to the hit that Crosby took from Niskanen, I think, in the Cap series. Maybe he feels like he's got to have his, his guy to protect his best player. So even though, like I said, I think that's kind of a position that's disappearing from the NHL simply because you have to have 4 lines of guys who can skate and score. You really can't afford to waste a position on a guy who's not great unless you're Tampa and you pay Dan Girardi.
Sure. But you do. I think that even though the enforcer title is kind of what people are saying are dying out, I don't know if it'll ever die out, right? Because you've got players that you're going to need. I mean, look at Wayne Gretzky. He never went anywhere without Marty McSorley after the whole Oilers thing. When he got traded to the Kings, McSorley was part of the deal because he wasn't going to go anywhere because he needed somebody to protect him. I mean, it's the same thing with anybody. You look at some of these guys, but I think there's at the end of the day, you're always going to need enforcers. I don't care who you are. I know we have one on our team, so we got to have one on every team to kind of help out. But I just don't think Reeves for the Pittsburgh was the answer to what they had. I'm kind of
I don't see that as being their big move where you say, okay, now they've reloaded to go for the three-peat. Although you got to look. I mean, accepting these 2 games where they've gotten destroyed. You still pencil them in to be like at least the conference.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's early season, right? We're 2 games into the season.
I would like to make a bold prediction and say that Matt Duchene ends up on the Pittsburgh Penguins somehow, some way. They finagle the salary cap once again and find out a way to fit this guy onto a squad with ridiculous amount of superstars.
I mean, let's talk about this. It's funny you bring him up, but let's talk about that with Colorado. Why haven't they, what's going on with that? I mean, he's been they're
asking holding out for his deal. He must have something in mind, and he's just not.
Well, he wants 2 good young defensemen. He wants a first-round pick and someone who's ready to play now. It's high asking price, way too high.
That's the thing is I don't see how he goes to Pittsburgh because who are they going to give for him?
Somehow they have like $5-6 million cap room right now.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's so much the cap room, right? But who are they going to give? Colorado's not going to give him without getting something good in return. I mean, look at Colorado. Let's face it.
They could trade Schultz.
I can't remember last time Colorado had a solid team on the ice. And it could be just because I don't keep up with the fantasy stuff. Maybe because I don't keep up with Western Conference as well as I should. But I cannot, for life of me, remember the last time Colorado Avalanche has been in a playoff conversation. And please indulge me.
Well, they were in. They were a couple years ago. I think Patrick Waugh won Coach of the Year. His first season. That was like 2013.
Same team that they have now. I don't know what happened.
5 years ago. So 5 years ago. At least 5 years ago.
I would say it was like 3.
They were a topic of conversation, and since then they just kind of been
and then they went into a tailspin, and then Waugh quit, didn't he? He just kind of
quit. Well, yeah, he kind of resigned / fired.
Right, I'm sure there was more about it.
But you don't always see, but he's a goalie, and they're different breeds.
Well, he's and Patrick Waugh, solid guy in net, but you don't know how he's going to be behind the bench. And I mean, how many you look across the NHL, and
not many great players.
How many head coaches are players, and how many of those players were goalies? Just the one, and he's not coaching anymore. So there's that. So we got a couple topics kind of dangling out there still to kind of wrap up loose ends. So far into the NHL season, you're happy with the Blackhawks and their performance?
More than happy. I mean, look at it. I mean, come on. 15 goals in 2 games. I mean, they're hitting on all 8. The chemistry's there with the lines, right? I mean, you got Schultz leading Kaner. You got Panik, Saad, and Jonathan Toews. They needed that to renew Jonathan Toews. He already has a goal. He got a goal his second game. Far better than what he was playing last season.
And one of the reasons I think they did do the Panarin-Saad trade was in part because of salary cap reasons, because they are completely, cap strapped. up there, but also to try and bring back Sod and maybe rejuvenate Taze a little bit, because he's certainly fallen off the past 2 seasons or so.
Yeah, I mean, especially last season, right? He had a rough season. I mean, it's hard to follow up when you got your second line with Kane and Panarin on there, right? Even with Schultz joining, those guys were just magical. So Taze kind of fell behind, but he's still a great leader, captain, But yeah, bringing in Sod, I think, was the best decision they made to rejuvenate him. They got Sharpie over on the third line, along with Anisimov and I think it's DeBrick. Right,
the Brincat.
Yeah, the Brincat, the new kid on the block. He scored his first tally the other night. 5'7". Light. I don't think he's 175 pounds, but the kid's bringing. When you play with that kind of caliber of players that the Hawks bring, it's going to bring them up. Look at Schmaltz, and things that have happened. I'm very happy with the Hawks. I obviously playoff material, right?
And this definitely felt like a statement game, coming off of getting swept in the first round against an 8 seed last season.
You got to do something.
Defending Stanley Cup champions, it definitely felt like they were a team on a mission.
Bowen have to make a statement. I think they did that this season with some of the trades and moves that they made and what they've done. And, you got to make those kind of statements, and that's what the Hawks need. Now, I definitely think Hawks are going to finish in top 5. Easily in points. I think definitely, playoffs shouldn't be a problem for them as long as they stay on it. Are they going to win Stanley Cup? Now, obviously, I'd love to see my Hawks win another Stanley Cup, bringing in 4 and 8 years.
Not according to EA Sports.
EA Sports.
You're going to have to get past those pesky Oilers. Michael.
Absolutely.
How are you feeling? I mean, it is early. It's only a couple games in the season with the Blue Shirts. How are you feeling about the Rangers right now? Do you really feel that they're going to be able to shake off this slow start? Thoughts?
Well, tonight was a good way to respond to a shellacking in Toronto. They won 2-0 to Montreal, which is definitely no slouch. And I think, like I said earlier, give them 10, 15 games, figure out the system, get a little bit more structured, and they'll be okay. They're not going to win the division, but they will definitely be wild card material.
I mean, you're not going to see a cup.
Oh, no, we're going to still win the cup from the wild card.
He ran a different simulation. It was the loser's bracket.
Just so you know, you beat Montreal, and they're not doing too hot right now, So,
well, I mean, Ovechkin make them look like beer league players last night.
Yeah, what a start by Ovechkin, the first guy in 100 years to open the season with back-to-back hat tricks. 3 goals in the first game.
He looks mean. Did you guys watch that? Have you guys watched those games? He looks mean. He's looking real good.
I heard the highlights.
Yeah, honestly, I would say we talked a little bit earlier about are they going to continue to call penalties like this? I think if they do, that certainly favors a team like the Caps that have a dynamite power play, with somebody like Ovechkin and Oshie.
Backstrom.
They've got those guys on there. They've got a real strong power play. So if they're going to continue to call penalties like this, and you're going to get 15 penalty calls a game, something like on both sides, then I think that might change how certain teams are going to perform throughout the season, because certain teams rely on their power play more than other teams do.
Yeah, they definitely rely on their power play. They're a strong team, right? I mean, they finished.
They've won impressive strong the last
season, but they always peter on the playoffs. I feel like they just don't.
It's a different.
They can't get past Pittsburgh, but they really. I mean, I think the consensus seemed to be that they were going to take a step back this year. That last year was their window. That was their big chance. That was when they were the clear favorites, and that this season they were going to kind of take maybe a little bit of a step back. But they certainly don't look like that so far. And again, if they continue to, and that's the thing we're talking about, is are they going to continue to call penalties like this for the entire season? We all know once you get to playoffs, that's different. They call the refs call the game in a completely different way. If they continue, I think it's a question of whether or not they continue to call it like this for the rest of the season. I really sincerely doubt that they're going to call the game like this in the playoffs. Because we know that the playoffs are, you call like 2 or 3 penalties a game, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. It's 84 game season. It's a long period of time, a lot of games.
we'll definitely have to have this conversation again in midseason.
I think it will be. I think that we won't be surprised to see a slacking off of some of the rules. I think they're going to get some pushback from the players and from the teams. But there's also the teams and the players are going to adapt to the new rules being called, and they're going to get a little bit more sneaky or whatever they're going to do to get around getting called for things. And it's just for better, for worse, we're going to see an adaptation from the players. I think the biggest elephant in the room right now is the fact that 3 of the 4 of us have established what our NHL teams are, except for one of us. Hunter, can you give us any kind of idea what the Flyers are thinking they're going to do this season?
Oh, I think, this is I wouldn't say it's a rebuild. I would say it is a reload because they still have they still have Drew, Voracek, Simmons. They still got those guys up there. But what's been the problem is that they don't have anybody else. They've been really lacking in depth the past couple seasons. I think they were one of, if not the worst, I think they were one of the worst teams at 5-on-5 last season. They were completely
I didn't even know the Flyers were still in the NHL.
This isn't soccer. You don't get demoted because you're horrible and another team comes up. That's not why the Knights are here.
Sorry, Jeff. Jeff. I know you're a Flyer fan.
And they've been.
I'll be interested to revisit this conversation at midseason. That's exactly where we're at.
But no, I think this is a youth movement. This is finally they've had the number 1 ranked farm system for the past couple of years. They've got a ton of really exciting young guys. I think last season they sent more players than any other NHL team to the World Junior Championships. This is all about. I think we got 5 rookies to start the season up on the team, and we're finally going to see a lot of these young defensemen, see how they're doing. I think if they make the playoffs as like a 7 or 8 seed in the East, the season's a success because you get those young guys playoff experience. You probably lose in the first round, but you get them the experience. And so far they've looked like a young team. They're playing really well. They also make a ton of mistakes. They had 2 rookies back on D, I think during a penalty kill last night against Anaheim, left the back door open. Anaheim tied it up at 1-1. That's what you have to expect seeing these guys. So I'm excited. They started 2-1. Starting out on the West Coast. I think they're starting out a lot better this season than they did last season. They started off I think 1-2 or 0-3 last season. I'm very excited with how they've started. Understanding that the expectations
are very low,
aren't quite as high as they might be for some of the people sitting at this table.
Philadelphia Flyers.
Well,
let's not lose tonight.
You guys are doing better than Mike's Rangers, so don't.
Please, it's still way too early.
Here we go.
It is entirely too early because I've been a lifelong Lightning fan, and I have been. This is our 25th year in existence.
Everybody at this table feels really sorry for you at this point.
I'm glad you do because and coming from a Blackhawk fan, that means a lot to see an original 6 team go from the doldrums and brought up from their ownership, being fan first and being fan friendly and saying, guys, we are bringing hockey back to this town. And by God, they did. They were one of the first teams to be able to turn their team around. They said they committed to it, and they did it. And it's the same thing that's happened in Tampa Bay. They have turned around their ownership after winning the Stanley Cup and the lockout and the hangover that went after that, and having the Cowboy owners. We have an ownership that is committed to hockey. The ownership has put the right people in place to make the things happen. And I think that's unfortunately very lacking in a lot of teams where the owners are like, look, you know about doing this, you know about drafting players, you know about scouting players, go do your jobs and holding them accountable and getting the right things in place. Like Hunter was saying, the Flyers have a good farm season or farm system finally established. The Lightning have had that for a while, but that started when Vinnick, I think it was before Vinnick took it over. They were establishing a good farm system without players being able to come up in your own system with the same playing system, go from the minors, say, okay, these are the same kind of plays that we're doing timing, same kind of movements we're expecting from you going from the minors to the majors. It's a hard leap as it is. And then you're changing systems and you're changing coaches and you're changing styles. It's a hard leap to do. To be able to have a seamless transition is important. And that's probably the biggest precursor for the Lightning's success, is that they've been able to make a more seamless transition between the minors into the majors. And it has paid off dividends. They're unnamed players people have never heard of. They become stars by the end of the season because they're being able to shine. Tyler Johnson may not have succeeded in other places, but he was able to come up through the system that he did, showed himself. They put him into the majors, playing the same system that he was in the minors, a little bit faster. He adapted. He's done really well, and now he's a mainstay with the Lightning.
Yeah, and I think the general consensus with the Lightning is that because of injuries and just everything else, they kind of underachieved last season. They missed the playoffs. Coming off of a season where they did really well. So I think the expectation for them is definitely to get back into the playoffs, right?
Absolutely. With the goaltending situation now squared away, Vasilevsky has it. It's his to lose. And he's a fantastic presence back there. He played extremely well the first two games of the season, but what you're seeing in front of him has been a tale of two different teams. The scoring has been there. The defense was there for game one against the Panthers in Tampa. When we went down to Miami, the defense did not get on the bus. They did not go down to Miami. They weren't protecting Vasilevsky. He saw 40 shots through two periods and stopped everything except for two. 2 goals on 40 shots. After that, the dam burst. Everything started caving in, and it was all on how many shots the defense was letting in. They're letting him out to hang. They didn't show up for the game. And again, it's early season. It's adjustments. It's a matter of getting their heads in the game and calling people out and being accountable. But that's on a team level, down in the locker room. That's up to those guys in those locker rooms strapping on the skates to decide, what are we going to do? What kind of season are we going to start having here? So between the two games that the Lightning had, I saw really good standing up for one another. I was seeing different players jumping in to protect each other, even if it's the slightest push from a Panthers player. They're standing up for one another. Is there a need for the enforcer role? Absolutely, but I don't think exclusively as an enforcer. I think a lot of players, at least with the Lightning, are willing to step up and defend each other, and that to me shows team. That shows teamwork. That shows I care about this guy over here, and I'm not just going to I'm going to let the grinder on the third line go ahead and square this up. You step up. You say, you stay off of my guy. You stay away from my goalie, and that has more of an effective presence on another team rather than just saying, we'll stick Becker on him. No, whenever I play behind you guys, I feel very safe because no matter what's going on, if I go to cover the puck, if I feel any snow on me, there's at least 3 blue shirts on that guy. You guys always step up and protect me. And if anything happens to any one of you guys getting boarded or tripped up, there's somebody in a blue shirt going after that guy to say, hey, we're not putting up with that nonsense. And to me, that screams team. So I like the fire that I'm seeing with the Lightning, but they need to figure out what they're going to be doing on the back end protecting Vasilevsky, because he's not going to be able to do this by himself, especially back-to-back nights.
No, I mean, the kid's great, right? You can't take that away from him. What changes do you think they're going to need to make? I mean, they got Washington coming up, right? Tough team. Again, Ovechkin looking mean. I mean, you're going into going to go play a team that's just on fire right now. I mean,
the Capitals are poised for greatness, and it's on them, and they've apparently, and what I'm seeing from Ovechkin is like that he's made his war cry, his grito in Spanish. He is making his statement. He's saying, I am coming for every single one of you, but it's in Russian, so none of us could understand it. And he's not going to slow down the Moscow Express when he comes to Tampa on Monday. He's going to come out. He's going to be in their face. He's going to be pushing against them. That whole team is fired up by him. They're going to play better because he's playing better. The Lightning better be prepared for him because they're going to come in and they're going to be ready to smash some heads. So hopefully the Lightning can address those defensive shortcomings before the Capitals come to town.
Can we address and look at and talk about the Leafs? for a minute? I mean, God, are they looking good or what? Austin Matthews and that team, I mean, bringing that kid in has been the best thing for the Leafs, right? He's brought a different depth to the team and just his play style and everything. But let's talk about them. 15 goals already those guys got on the board.
2 games?
In 2 games. 2 games, yeah. 15 goals. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the best in the league behind hold on, let me behind Chicago, which is 15 also, so they're tied. And then you got Washington at 11.
I like how you say it's best in the league. It's like they're
except
Chicago has achieved a higher plane of existence.
But let's face it, if it wasn't for the Pittsburgh debacle, would they be at 15? I don't know. I mean, Austin to me is just I mean, Austin's playing beautifully, right? That team's hitting an all 8. I mean, let's talk about them for a minute. How good are they right now?
And that's another team that's drafted extremely well, and gotten lucky
when you finish last in the league, it's really easy to draft well. I don't mean to be bringing up old stuff, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, right,
when you finish last and you're able to score the top draft picks, you better be picking the good people that complement whatever system it is that you have.
You see 2 teams that finished last, got the number 1 pick with McDavid and Edmonton, and then the following year, the Maple Leafs got the number 1 pick with Matthews. You got to say those teams are probably both Stanley Cup contenders. I mean, this season, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Not so much Toronto. I'm not buying into them.
Toronto definitely has a tougher run.
They're going to be very good. But I still give them another year or 2. They're still very young.
Yeah, but I mean, when they got in the playoffs last season, they got experience, and they won 2 games against Washington.
They're not going to jump to the cup.
Well, I don't know if they're going to jump to the cup, but they're going to make it.
They're making
the noise.
They're going to make some noise.
I mean,
they might win that division.
East Conference. It's very easy that they're going to win their division
easily. I definitely believe that.
But
I mean,
the Rangers are still going to come out on top. Shaq Kirk is going to lead the way.
Sometimes you have to vote with the stats and not with your heart, but the heart is what keeps the game going. That's what.
Can we start drug testing around here? I mean,
no, we have a very strict no drug test policy here.
Because apparently Mike thinks the Rangers are going to go all the way. Yeah, that's why I hear every season. Wait till you see the Rangers. Wait till you see the Rangers, and all I ever see is the Rangers golfing early while other teams
not earlier than the Blackhawks last year.
All right, 1 season you stayed longer in the playoffs. Okay, 1 season,
and we won playoff games.
Were you even alive when they won the Stanley Cup?
I was 3 years old. So
3 years
that
old.
counts.
Jesus Christ.
I had the VHS to remember it by.
VHS to remember.
And that's all that matters.
3 years old. You probably were still Daddy's arms there.
I'm still doing that to this day. So.
Jesus Christ. And then we talked about Toronto doing good. Well, let's talk about McDavid and his Oilers. I mean, I don't think the Oilers have had anybody at that caliber since Gretzky.
No, I mean, I don't know if there's been anybody in the league of that caliber since Gretzky. I mean, he is just he's so good, like he's unbelievable with his stick handling, with his speed, and he absolutely dominates. I mean, I do think there's one question of, we talk about Stanley Cup contenders for this year. We got to think, do they have more of a clock on them? Do they have to win it more this year or next year simply because of the cap? Because they look like they're going to be in a situation within the next maybe 2 or 3 years where they're going to be capped out.
They're going to run into the problems that Chicago ran into, right? Yeah. Look at Taves and Kane, right? They got identical contracts, which ate up a lot of Chicago's cap. I think with McDavid, this kid is just...
And they've sort of had a similar situation with David and with Draisaitl.
They got them all locked up for 8 years, so now they just have to figure out the depth around them.
And that's the question: do they have the depth that Chicago is able to find, and that Pittsburgh has been able to sort of sprinkle pixie dust on?
Well, I think that falls back onto what they have for a farm system and the quality that they're drafting. Because it's okay to lock up really good players for long-term contracts, but who do you have to complement them? If you've got players that are are high dollar and they're doing well, they're doing their jobs for their money, and then they have to go because of the money. Who do you bring in to replace them? You know, you can't have 5 players replace Brandon Saad, what he brings to the team. So I think the Oilers are either going to be forced to push up their farm system up a notch, or maybe they're happy with what they're seeing, or something. But the Oilers are going to have long-term problems. I think that this year definitely poised for a run, if not next year. But I definitely wouldn't rule them out for a Western Conference championship. Absolutely not. Not right now. If they stay healthy and if everybody's firing on all cylinders. But that's any
It's
team.
always going to come down to how they're playing in April and May.
This is a long season. 84 games is a lot of hockey to play on and off the road.
Yeah, if they're going to stay healthy, what issues they're going to run into. I mean, like you said, unless they build up their farm system, they get some of this talent to play with McDavid and those guys over there, you're going to run into issues, right? When you look at Chicago, who's got talented players, and they bring these kids up, they can play well with them. Pittsburgh, I mean, there's a handful of teams out there that have pretty good farm systems that can make the mix, but I don't think Edmonton's there yet. I think McDavid is a stud. Definitely going to break some records. I feel like, comes out, hat trick. Kid's got speed, and not only speed, but speed with a puck, which is really hard to have. You can be fast. I mean, Dylan Larkin, right? He's fast. But really, what did he do? He kind of petered out last season with Detroit. I don't think he's really bringing anything to the game when you got
And
McDavid.
that's a bad team, too.
Yeah, I mean, they're having all kinds of issues since the Datsuk thing. I mean, that was really their only main firepower behind that bench, right? I mean, Datsuk leaves, and what have they done? Nothing.
Datsuk playing for the Phantom Phoenix Coyotes. If you could bring that to Pronger, Datsuk, who else? Maybe Hossa. Hossa eventually hangs up
right, hangs up
on the Coyotes.
I think, Hossa, I think this is his last season, right? I mean, he's on IR.
He's done.
He's done.
It is what it is. And you're talking about a guy who brought a lot of depth to Blackhawks, too. That's going to be hard to replace on the line. He could play forward. He could play back. He pushed it. He knew where to be. I would rate, where Detroit's at right now, dare I say, where the Rangers are at. I just don't feel like the Rangers are going to bring much this season. So I'm going to harp on them Rangers because I know Mike's such a Ranger fan and thinks his Rangers are going to win the Cup. And I just don't feel like the Rangers are going to get there this year.
I mean, you do have a point where I think the Rangers have a lot of questions at center depth, and then they're also playing in a really tough division. They're playing in the Metro. You start to look at Columbus, Pittsburgh, Washington.
Well, that's why I go with the wild card. But our number one center, Mika Zibanejad, has been on fire the first 3 games. Whether they've been playing good or not, he's been consistent so far.
Can he sustain that?
Hopefully, he can sustain it. I still think we do need to trade for a center eventually, but they will make it work. AV always makes it work. They probably do need to replace AV eventually, though. I don't think he's the one to bring them a cup, but I'm hoping that he can before Hank's time runs out because he deserves one for sure.
Well, I think in order to get him a cup, you're going to have to trade him to a team that can play some D in front of him and help him out there. I mean, Hank's a stud of a goaltender. Really, it comes down to just I just don't feel like you guys have the depth anymore. I think, bringing in, Jimmy VC, they thought that kid was going to do a lot right, and he had a lot of promise. Hawks looked at him, but I just don't think he brought what he needed to bring to the table.
He's still very young, and I think he'll be okay. He's not going to be 70, 80 point player, but 40, 50 points. That's about where he'll top off, and they'll be all right.
Yeah, it's good being a mediocre player. You're right.
All right, so final predictions. I think we came up with. We have a Blackhawks Stanley Cup. We have a Rangers Stanley Cup. Against the Oilers. We've got a Flyers 8 seed. Cheyenne, care to chime in?
If you're fortunate.
You might make the playoffs.
I said out loud, you can rewind this if you want. I'd say Lightning will definitely make the playoffs. I'd say second seed or third seed, just depending on injuries. They have a lot to prove. They have a lot of talent. It's just a matter of whether they're going to be able to make the final push and stay healthy. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if they'll take the Eastern Conference this year.
What's your prediction for Washington? You guys going to beat them or what?
I think it's Washington's time to step up. I think they're going to be more hungry.
So you're predicting you guys are going to lose.
Yeah, I say I'm as an avid Lightning fan, and I love the team to death. If they can't get their act together and protect their goaltender, they're not going to go far at all. So we'll see. I will revisit this at the All-Star break, but as of right now, it's kind of a 50-50 split. I saw two different teams over 2 nights, so they need to decide who they're going to be for there to be a real clear determination. But it's only 2 games into an 84-game season, so it's way too early to call. So I'd like to see them win the Stanley Cup, but being realistic, based on last night's game, I'm going to say no. They're not going to win the Eastern Conference, not the way that they played last night.
That's a pretty good prediction.
That's because the Rangers are winning it, but that's all right. I do think the Lightning
voting with your heart.
Well, we got Hawks and Leafs tomorrow night. I think for the Hawks, they're gonna have to bring the same intensity against Pittsburgh. I mean, they played good against Columbus. I don't feel like they played quite as good against Columbus as they played against Pittsburgh. I think they're going to go against a very fast team. Toronto's pumped up, looking good. It's going to be a hard game for the Hawks, but we're going to pull it out. I don't see it being a landslide. I think it's going to be like a 1-goal victory.
You heard it here first, folks. 82-0. The first 82 of that season for the Chicago Blackhawks.
I don't think they're going to go 82-0. I'd like to see them extend that winning streak to at least 3 games. You know, they've got
Maple Leafs are going to crush them.
We'll see. It's only because you got your butt spanked 8-5, but that's cool.
I'm fine with that. We're going to move on.
What, was Hank in that for that?
For the first 5.
Oh, for the first 5, and then they had to yank him? Yeah, it sucks. I don't think Crawford's been yanked yet.
And on that note,
that concludes our show. I would like to thank tonight's sponsors, Naptime Spray, Dr. Sean Hansen, chiropractor to the stars at Tarpon Total Healthcare, and Bud Light. For more information on us, please visit our Facebook page, Misfit Boyz Hockey with a Z. Thank you for listening, and may your week be more awesome than a Gordie Howe hat trick.